Honorable Attorney General, okay, maybe you ask.
Yes. So a letter of engagement was generated for him. Enrico Manfrini rejected the offer and now stated that he rejected the offer because of the complexity associated with the case, and he insisted for consideration of 20 to 30% as being professional fees for the services he was to render. Mr. President refused the offer, and I equally generated a letter notifying him of our rejection of the offer. And it was against that background that a Nigerian lawyer,
a consortium
of lawyers of Nigerian origin, now, I mean, their proposal for the 5% offer was now considered, and then they accepted the offer, and they now moved to action. Arising from that, the money was eventually recovered, and then when the money was recovered and paid into the consolidated revenue account of the federal government, I generated a letter. They now wrote a letter seeking to be paid the 5% professional fees agreed upon in line with their letter of instruction. I now generated a letter to the central bank seeking for confirmation of the lodgement of the fund. Central bank responded that the money was indeed paid, provided a statement of account to that effect, provided that the money, established that the money was paid into appropriate account of the federal government, and then armed with the letter of the central bank, and then with the demand letter from the lawyers, the offer letter generated by the federal government and their acceptance, I now processed a request to the Ministry of Finance to process their application for the payment of their fee. What happens at the Ministry of Finance?
So this is where the controversies arises. The Minister of Finance is arguing she's not blocking anything and she's not blocking anybody. But before we jump to that, initially when the first money was recovered, it was domiciled into the custody of Attorney General of Sweden. This time around, it was directly from the banks to the CBN, or it was custodied by the Attorney General there before it reached CBN.
No, the Attorney General of the Swiss simply processed the judicial process, allowing for the freezing of the money in Swiss. But then after the court order by which the amount or the sum of money was freezed, there is need for further process that will see to the remittance of the fund to the federal government. Conventional practice before then was for the money to be paid to Manfrini Enrico, who will now deduct his fee and then remit the balance to the federal government. But now, the lawyers, by the terms of their engagement, the new set of lawyers that were engaged, by the terms of their engagement, they were simply to process the payment of that amount into the central bank account, and then thereafter make a demand for the payment of the money. So what the Attorney General in Swiss did was simply to initiate process for the warehousing of the money, and then what the Nigerian lawyers did was the processing of the remittance of the money from the Swiss judicial process to the Central Bank of Nigeria.
So what happens as the issue reached to the Minister of Finance?
Well, the payment is being processed, and then naturally the conventional way of doing things is, if for whatever reason the Minister of Finance requires certain approvals, or perhaps maybe the amount involved exceeds the limit, the threshold of her approval, there are two ways to go about it. One is either to generate a memo to the President, notifying the President of the demand, who will eventually direct or give an approval for her to act, or in the alternative, write to the Attorney General of the Federation seeking for the presentation of the Council memo, or the Council now to collectively look into the circumstances and give an approval or refuse same.